Welcome to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages, with your host, Matthew Shipp. This is the podcast for all of those who are involved in the agriculture all the way to the distribution of beverages. And now your host, Matthew Shipp.
Hello and welcome to Harvest to Pour. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I am here with Angela Garland, the CEO and co-founder of Exit 11 Coffee in Washington, Missouri. How are you doing today, Angela?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Really interested in your business and how it came to be. So go ahead and take us through a brief introduction of your company and kind of how Exit 11 came to be and the point to where you are right now.
All right, super. Well, my husband, Scott, and I, we own 8 drive-thru coffee stands and a co-working center and a coffee roastery. We opened the co-working center in 2015, and then we added the specialty coffee in 2016 and opened our first drive-thru in 2018. And we now have 58 employees, and that number keeps growing. So it's very exciting. My parents lived in Washington in the early 90s, but I'm from St. Louis. So I had come up with this concept of a co-working center in the old days, it was called a shared office environment. But in today's time, it's called a co-working center. And I wanted it to have specialty coffee, meeting rooms, offices, and all of that. And so that was the long-time dream. And it got put on the shelf a lot of different times just because of life. And then finally, a friend of mine introduced me to a landlord out in Washington, Missouri, even though I was living in St. Louis. And said, I told him about your idea. He loves it. He's got vacant space. He can be flexible, blah, blah, blah. So I came to check it out and decided that I'd like to create test that concept in smaller markets, because co-working centers are big in very popular in the big cities. But I thought, okay, small markets need this too. So we kind of accidentally got into we did accidentally into the drive-thru coffee business because we didn't have the money to do the specialty coffee at the beginning when we opened our co-working center. But the landlord, the guy that owned the building where my co-working center was, also had invested in a restaurant on the lower level of this building. And that closed down, and there was an espresso machine, a really nice high-end espresso machine sitting down in that restaurant needing some company. And my husband, who is more the technology mad scientist, said, hey, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to make this work. And so we watched lots of YouTube videos, and then we both loved coffee, but we weren't like coffee nerds or coffee scientists didn't have this dream to be this coffee empire by any means. I just happened to I love the hospitality business. So that's co-working is all about, taking in people, and they office with you and you make sure that they're happy and take care of their needs and service them. So coffee is the same way. So it's our job to make sure when people leave us that they are happier than when they started with us. So the specialty coffee part of our co-working center started to grow because there wasn't a lot of specialty coffee in this small town. But then parking became an issue, and we're inside an office building, and then people couldn't find us. It just wasn't the right location. And we, of course, discovered, hey, there's no drive-thrus in this town. I visited my daughter in Olympia, Washington, just outside of Seattle, and was amazed that every other block there was one of these 2-sided drive-thru kiosks. And one very friendly lady, I drove by her drive-thru at like 10 o'clock in the afternoon, right next to my daughter's apartment building. I was asking her questions and saying, hey, we're thinking about trying to do something in Washington, Missouri. And I said St. Louis. She's like, park your car. You come on in here. You can check it out. And so she just let me take measurements and take pictures. And it's really got the grasp of like the size of the building and where they have things placed and how far the window is from the ground. And so the cars could, because this is all foreign to us. So anyway, meanwhile, my husband I'm looking at the business side of things from marketing and operations and the people part, and he is studying the science behind coffee and how it's roasted, where we should get beans and if we should get beans and how to make a latte, and learned, we visited hundreds of coffee shops. We still do. We're always learning, everywhere we go, because we're always testing, like, what are we doing really great? What could we use help on? How, different marketing things that people might be doing. So anyway, that's how we landed in this business. I'm naturally entrepreneurial, so I'm always looking at where there's opportunities, and I love business. So even if I would do this for ice cream because I like ice cream, but I'm not passionate about ice cream. I'm passionate about the startup, the small business, entrepreneurial ventures, And going way back in time, my uncle, who has a very successful business, told me to read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And I was about early 30s.
Mhm.
And reading that book, and I got all the audio tapes, and I must have I wore those tapes out, CDs, sorry, me. Oh, and it just, like, if you're going to create something, make sure that it's sellable, franchisable, just from day one. And I was glad he told me that. So every time I look at things I looked at the business that I'm in, the co-working and coffee shop, and really thought that's what I would duplicate. I'm like, I'm going to prove the model, work out the systems, and then we'll just open one of these little co-working centers in every small town across the U.S. Well, we shifted and did that now with the drive-thru coffee stand. So that's where our model is. And we continually are tweaking, how do we make it more efficient? What are other products that we can offer, et cetera. So, which is how we got into roasting. Of course, we were originally buying from another roaster. And then as we opened up the second and third drive-through, it was no longer sustainable to buy somebody else's roasted beans. So we invested in a roaster, learned from some really great guys out of St. Louis how to roast, and they are still help us with our buying beans. So we are by no means, bean buying experts. So he and Scott get together, and that's where they decide, which countries we're going to source from. And we do not have, there's some coffee shops that I feel like that's their specialty. I mean, they have a different bean from another country every other week or month. And that's in they are the true coffee scientists. We are coffeepreneurs. What else? I'm always thinking, what else can we do with coffee? I guess we could do coffee pod. We can get them in Schnucks. I could use them in Airbnbs. We can have, we can market our bags. And that can be, instead of squeeze balls, hand out 2 samples of coffee with your logo on it. So there's all kinds. And that's what drive. I'm like, oh, we can do this. And so I have to focus, okay, 1,400 people are going to show up tomorrow. We need to make sure they're staffed, they have supplies, and and the equipment working. So that's always our priority. So as much as I have, I don't know what that thing is, the squirrel or the shining light and want to do it all, I am grounded enough to know that, I have to feed and pay for 58 people and their family. So let's make sure the customers show up to the drive-thru location. So, long answer.
No, that was I loved it. So it seems like initially, when it's kind of coming back together, you had to separate your co-working center, which you really wanted to do, from the drive-through initially, and so, but you still kind of wanted to entertain that co-working center as another vertical for your business. Do you ever see them coming together again, or is it going to be Exit 11 and then a co-working place that just happens to have the same coffee?
We did have how we got started was, of course, we opened up the front of the co-working center as to the public as a coffee shop, and thought, hey, that's the marketing arm. Hey, come in for a cup of coffee. And then they're like, oh, what is this place? Because no one knew what co-working was in Washington, right? And so then I could give them a tour and say, come see our meeting rooms. And so and that's still, all of our offices are full. Our meeting rooms are booked, weekly from a lot of the larger companies in town. And then, of course, we still provide free coffee to our customers. We're just not doing the specialty coffee, but we will. So if somebody's a member of the co-working space, we're like, come in, get your drink, your latte at the drive-thru, which is literally half a block away, and then bring it in with you and you can work. But we just, we would see 30 coffee shop customers in a day and 300 drive-thru customers across the street. So it did, and I had to have twice the staff here because you've got the bill, I'm worrying about doing dishes and making food and running back and forth and cleaning up after people. And I can operate way more efficiently. I can operate with 2 people at the drive-thru and see 300 people. So it just economically didn't make sense for me to continue to staff something that was just going to break even. But now the co-working center makes a little bit of money, but it's also our corporate headquarters and our training facility for all of our onboarding and new employees and employee events. So, we have our Christmas party here and all of that. So it ended up being a great anchor. And we have about 8 full-time office tenant. We act as their receptionist. They use our meeting room and they have a private office. And then we have about 15 to 20 members who just use that open workspace. And that's certainly an opportunity we could grow, but our attention has just been, with the saying, energy flows where attention goes, and all of our attention has been on the drive-thru business. So I wonder what would happen if I actually tried to sell a membership to the co-working place.
So out of that office, that's where you started noticing that would have been just almost too much foot traffic in a way in the same place at the same time, wouldn't it have, if you would have kept that combined? And then that was your starting point to say, kind of your experimenting ground to say, okay, this drive-through makes sense. You've got to, I guess, play around with it in your co-working location initially.
Yeah. And that's where we got to. My husband is big on offering samples. And of course, we're in a 55,000 square building, and we managed the building at that time too, to help us. We did a partial trade for our rent. And that's what you do when you're bootstrapping. So he took care of the maintenance for this huge building, and I took care of the leasing. And we would, of course, ask all the tenants, hey, come down, we've got something for you to sample. And that way we could test, because we make our own syrup. So he would have people test that and get feedback. And then for the drive-through, same thing, is the property that we're on was for sale. And so we worked out a lease to purchase option and said, let's lease it for a year. We have no idea if this little drive-through trailer concept is going to work. And we don't want to be locked in or purchase a property if we don't even know. No one's ever done anything like this. So in this area, we had no idea. We really didn't know. We knew what we were doing because we did our research, but we hadn't done it before. So let's see if it works.
That's great. This is a great place to talk about those early challenges and a little bit of that bootstrapping. Talk a little bit about that. What were some of how did you test your bounds? How far could you push? How much risk were you willing to take to see if things are going to work and still recover back to your initial business?
Yeah, both of us are very conservative when it comes to spending money, borrowing money, getting investors. So we didn't do any of that at the beginning. Luckily, so both of us kept our corporate job for the first year and a half. And so mine was a field-based job, so I could kind of wear both hats as I was leasing offices and trying to ramp up the co-working place, and then eventually the coffee. And then he had a job where he, was on the road and traveled. So we were able to do both that first 18 months, which helped. And then we sold a big old house in Webster Groves or in Shrewsbury area and used that as a cushion to say, okay, if all hell breaks loose, we at least have something in the bank. And then really lived conservatively we lived in a little tiny 900 square foot house up until this past December. And it was on 5 acres. It was a beautiful setting, but it was a little bitty tiny house. And we spent all energy, time, money, resources building the business and nothing on buying nice cars, nice houses. We just said everything goes back in. Now we're in a more comfortable place. And it is I was telling an employee today that when we first opened, that it was the generosity of the landlord who said, yeah, there's this espresso machine down, that restaurant I invested in. It's just sitting down there if you want to try it out. That was a $10,000 Italian espresso machine that at that time we never would have been able to buy. Are you kidding me? And because of him and allowing us to do that, now we're buying 2 espresso machines at a time, and I'm not panicking. Ooh, how are we going to do that? So it's amazing what in 6 happens. Yeah, we need another espresso machine. You better get one tomorrow or whatever. But
all right.
So that's part of it. But.
Okay. I really like your comment saying your coffeepreneurs. And that you really liked that you like the startup, the piece of the startup, and that's where your passion lies, and giving those ideas. But just dig into that a little bit. So it made coffee. It wasn't your passion, but you found this need, and you also are seeing a lot of different things you could possibly do beyond coffee. How do you take that entrepreneur mind and focus it down long enough to get something going? This is going to be a big one for a lot of people listening.
Well, we are big on personality profiles, and we actually Scott and I are the second marriages for both of us. And when we started dating, personality profiles were we're personality profile nerd. There's such a thing. And so we were like, whoa, you're so sexy. You're Myers-Briggs. We started doing the profiles in 2021 on employees. And I'm bringing that up because it helps us not understand ourselves, but the people that we're managing. And what Scott and I both have is the follow through, which a lot of people don't have that follow through. So even though I can be a squirrel and go, oh, I'm over here, I will every single time come back. Like if I assigned something to you and said, hey, I want to go see if we should get into the biscuit business or whatever, and to follow up with you. At some point, it might not be tomorrow, but a month. I'm like, didn't I ask you to go pull some stats on biscuit making? And you're like, oh, I thought you forgot about that idea, but just you that we never had that. But I'm just making that up, even if it's because I want to make, and because I'm so customer service oriented, hospitality oriented. That's what keeps me in this game. Like if I had in the old days when I just opened up co-working centers, I would consult with a landlord, help them develop this co-working concept, get it up and running, and then I'm like, I'm out. See ya. And then I'd come back every couple months and tweak and make changes and maybe do some training, but I did not want to do the day-to-day. What keeps me in the day-to-day here is that I know, every single day is different, and you're dealing with the public, it's a whole different ballgame than my past of dealing in a consulting role and dealing business to business. So I don't know who's going to show up tomorrow. I don't know what mood they're going to be in. And there's so many variables from what's happening on social media. And did someone give us a Google review and someone can't find us and they complained because their drink wasn't made the right way. And there's a traffic jam and the espresso machine was broken and that location had a flood. And there's always something. So for someone like our personalities that love that challenge, that's what keeps us in the game. And I can still spend moments of saying, hey, I wonder if we should get into K-Pods and what that would look like. And I'll do the little research and figure out if it's cost effective and what would be involved with starting it up. But I don't pull the trigger because I don't want to jeopardize what we've created. I don't want to take my eye off the ball. So, but that's what I get to do that once I start replacing myself with other people, which we're starting to do. So,
excellent.
So somebody's starting, we have somebody involved with, I no longer have to count money, which is so funny. In the very beginning, I would be in my office, and because I'm not detail oriented, I'm counting the cash. And one of our clients walked by. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Do not talk to me. I am counting my money." He's like,
don't distract me now. I don't know.
But I have people that count the cash. I love that, and they love doing that, and it's perfect every single time.
Great. Okay, so you are starting to fire yourself from roles at this point now.
Yeah,
awesome.
For sure.
All right, so I could keep digging into this. I might come back to it, but I want to get into the harvest to pour journey here. So the harvest to pour journey is kind of the center of this podcast. The harvest is kind of where you source your ingredients to make what you make. So we can go into a little bit of the coffee roastery and then how you make it uniquely yours, or how do you make this business uniquely yours? Because I want to touch on that. There are now you're ahead of the game. There's a lot of drive-through coffee places now I've been seeing popping up all over the place. But you've been around much longer than this. So how do you make yourself stand out from everybody else? And then finally, the pour is more of the marketing. How do you get people coming to, I guess, realize you're here, put out your shingle? And how do you keep them from coming back? Or how do you keep them coming back? Bleh. So let's go back to the harvest. So let's talk about, you get the specialty coffee roaster. So you decided to start roasting because you couldn't, it wasn't affordable really to buy coffee from different roasters, and it started cutting into your profit. So you wanted to own that vertical. Talk a little bit about that, how that came to be, and how you said the sourcing, because you said you're not roasting a different single origin every week or every month. You're doing something a little bit different, and how does that fit your model?
Sure. Well, we actually got started with a great company out of St. Louis, and I'm sure other roasters have used them too. So I'm great to give them a plug. But it's First Crack out of St. Louis.
Yeah.
And they had a shared roasting facility, like I have a shared office facility, and they would teach you how to roast, and then you would rent their roaster for a couple of hours a week to go down there and roast, and then we'd bring the big 5-gallon buckets of beans. We'd drive down to St. Louis, roast our beans, drive them back to Washington. So that's how we got started. And then he would help Scott figure out what origin he likes, what level of roast that he likes, et cetera. So now they still help us with buying the green beans. And they have told us, they're like, so we bought our roaster from them. So it's been this nice progression. They said, okay, you're all grown up now. And you probably need your own roaster. So we did that in 21. He helped us find the best one. And that was, of course, not the end of COVID, but somewhere in the middle. And of course, it was on some kind of barge for like 6 months. And we were waiting for this roaster to get there. And it finally got there at the end of 21. And then then he helps us still, so we roast our own, but he helps us still source the beans. But he said, you guys can go straight to the buyer, but we haven't let go of that piece because we don't have the bandwidth to dig into that. And I want to get it right. So I don't trust myself. I trust him. So we just decided on 4. We buy from Ethiopia, Colombia, Costa Rica, and Peru. And then we roast them so they come in these big 150-pound bags of green beans that get dropped off every couple of weeks. And then one of our baristas has been trained also by First Crack on roasting, and Scott's also been trained. So she's our primary production roaster. And then each bean is used for something specific. So for instance, our Costa Rica is used for our cold brew, but it also makes a great roast makes a great brew, normal coffee brew that you might have at home. And our Colombian, we like that bean best for our espresso, but it also makes a great regular brew. So we tasted it to say, what's it best used for? So like our Costa Rican is really smooth. Our cold brew is really smooth, and we think that's because of the bean and the level of roast. So that's about the green bean part of it. And then we started making our own syrups even before we started roasting our own beans, because every bottle of syrup is $7, $8, $9. And so we do better. This way we buy the extract and then just extract organic sugar and water. And the baristas make the syrups inside the drive-thrus. So we make a bourbon vanilla, a Spanish vanilla, a hazelnut, a coconut, a cinnamon dolce. We make peppermint when it's in season. And then we got into actually buying the Madagascar bourbon vanilla beans themselves, slicing them, and then we soak them in 100 proof alcohol for a couple of months, and that makes our extract. So it's all about efficiency and cost of goods. And as cost of goods increase, you have to look for opportunities where you can save money. Can we do it in-house? It may not. And each of those is also a potential revenue source or business on its own. So for instance, if we get really good at making vanilla extract, why can't we sell, and I found a co-packer. It's like, yeah, we are now in the business of vanilla extract or syrups. We haven't mass produced the syrups because we don't have the bandwidth again to figure out how we're going to ship this without it seeping, because it's organic, it doesn't have the chemicals in it. So how do we do that? But a lot of these, this is how I see everything we do is there, whatever we're creating in-house, can we mass produce it? So we make our burritos in-house. So again, the burritos, you would think we're in the coffee business, not the burrito business, but it's got something's got to go with that drink. And so because our taste tester, it took us a year to get this great burrito, and now we sell 5,000 burritos a month. And it's all made in-house. And that's another area, like Ted Drew's, right? He sold his ice cream forever, and now you can go to any grocery store and get Ted Drew's ice cream. So why can't you get an X11 burrito? And if it's that popular, and we're not there yet, but I'm just saying. And that would take other really smart people to tell us how to do that someday. Another entrepreneurial person that says, like Marcus Lemonis, I don't know if you've ever watched his show, but he has a reality show. It's not live right now, but he did it for 7 or 8 years. And that Scott and I we purchased the seasons every year. And we're like, this is the best investment that we could ever make, because he's actually going into small businesses saying, I want to invest in you, and it's a reality show. So there's some drama, but it's all about the numbers and what do you do? How are you spending your money, and how are you getting more efficient, and how can you create other businesses from your core product? So can I create a marketing company? Sure. Why not? I have a videographer, a photographer, a graphic artist, a web developer on staff. Yes. I create a marketing agency because I need a marketing agency. So why not own my own marketing agency? And then the same with, we're going to roast our own beans. Why can't I roast my beans for Sally's coffee shop up the street and the other restaurant downtown? If I'm going to buy Lotus Energy teas, why don't I become a distributor? And then I can sell that to other coffee shops in addition to my existing drive-thrus. So the roastery is a completely separate entity on its own. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, we love your drive-thrus, we want to buy them all up, I'd say, great, super, but we're keeping our roastery and you got to buy your beans, your syrups, your blah, blah, blah. And if we franchised, we wanted to create a model that we're practicing franchising before we get there. So the drive-thru in Brentwood places an order with the roastery in Washington that gets fulfilled, and then they invoice them. So I know I'm way off track, but thinking.
This is great. I mean, the entrepreneur mind, I love it. I've only dabbled. I'm trying to, but it's I like how every fix for your company or every something that helps on your bottom line or your efficiency is also a potential business or product that you can also further leverage. That
Right.
is great advice. And I want to dig into how you see things to separate things out so you're not completely overwhelmed by running like kind of about 6 businesses, I think, somewhere around there. But go into like I said, that's how you make things uniquely yours. Your own syrups, your own coffee, the burritos. So you really defined like within your ecosystem, you have several different products, several different businesses. And that's really something that makes X11 stand out. Now, they're all drive-throughs. So there's 2 things is how do you determine a location, a proper location? What's in on that? And now that you are ahead of the game, there's now I'm seeing now a lot more drive-throughs of different companies showing up. How does that play into what makes a customer come back to you versus somebody else? And how does that location play into that?
Well, we love competition because my husband's, he's way more competitive. I mean, I'm competitive. He loves the challenge, like bring it on. So we had our 3rd location, which is on a theater parking lot in Washington, Missouri off Highway 100. We were there for 2 years, and then Starbucks, a beautiful Starbucks location opens, inside coffee shop, drive-through, et cetera. And people are like, oh my gosh, Starbucks, what are you going to do? Poor little company. And we were like, they will just drive traffic to us. They have a $1 billion marketing budget and they'll bring them to us. And that's we're up 38% this year from last year at that location. So the more coffee people drink, the more coffee people drink. So 6 years ago, we were the only drive-through in town. And now we have 2 drive-throughs in this little town. Starbucks is here and now Dunkin' is opening up. Plus there's a handful of the coffee shops. So we've created this coffee culture kind of. And also the market, 5-year-olds are buying Kid Frat. They're not buying them, that their parents are buying, a kitty crap and, a little refresher and a cake pop. And so you have to, I always want to know, how do I market to the whole car? So right now, if you go to Scooters or Seven Brew or Dutch Brothers, their focus is, they're all focused on speed but it feels like to me, Seven Brew and Dutch Brothers market is more the college kids. And if you look at, I look at all their marketing and I say, okay, it's party central at Seven Brew. I mean, you watch their videos and their employment and recruiting. It's like college kids on steroids and they are all doing beer bong things with not beer, but one of those energy drinks, right?
Energy drinks.
And they're like, woo, woo, woo. And I would hope that people would look at us and say, actually, these are serious coffee people. We're not stuffy, but we care about getting you a flat white or, a Doppio or having the best latte for mom, but also something for the little kids so she can take care of everyone. So I get to get my sugar-free vanilla latte made with cashew milk and an extra shot with caramel drizzle. And I can get a Kit Pop for him and a Kid Frap for her. My husband, I can get him a cold brew, and I can pick up a black coffee from my mom because I'm headed to her house or whatever. So that's the goal is that how do we take care of her? And it is 75% of our market is females. So how do we make sure she's happy and then takes care of all her people? Because otherwise she's got to get something for her drink from us. And then she's got to go to Panera and get a sandwich for somebody and then go to wherever. We're trying to keep her from going to lots of places. That's back to the efficiency. Scott and I are so driven on efficiency, and it really, back to the personality profile, I have zero patience. I am off the charts impatient. Like you meet, it's not even human quality. I don't even think I'm so impatient, but I'm aware of that. So from a people standpoint, I have to really focus on listening better and slowing down and being patient. From a business standpoint, it's like, how can we move more cars faster? How can we move them faster? Like our little bitty 16-foot trailer sees over 400 cars a day and 96 in that rush hour.
Wow.
96 cars. I know. It's like, and it's because we are still very involved. And I think what happens is a lot of people open up a small business. They either get burnout, they can't do it, they run out of money and they quit, or they get burnt out and they're like, okay, I'm going to go do something else over here. And I'm going to have the 22-year-old Sally Sue run it for me because I'm done with it. And I don't know if I'm that politically, if not, but anyway, they've got a kid running their operation. And so and people don't like stop at places where there's kids running it. I'm sorry. So that, I mean, we get people love to see me and Scott in the drive-thru because it's like, oh, mom and dad are still here. They're still watching it, because it's like they're watching the house. And Scott will go in there and like, nope. Okay, guys, we got enough track. Here we go. This is where this goes. This is how we make this. And that's, I think, what differentiates us. And it's also our biggest fear of franchising, because how do we maintain those standards and continue to take care of the people? I mean, because 95% of the people that show up at that original location are repeat. And we have people that, we are their place 5 to 6 days a week. And we are making their drink as they pull in. I don't imagine I will ever go to a speaker box, because a speaker box is not personal. You can't understand what they're saying. The order's going to be wrong. I wait till I get you in the window. I look you in the eyeball and I say, all right, we're getting that mocha latte with an extra shot today, Matthew. You're like, yes. And I've already got it made before you get to the window.
That's
Which
cool.
goes back to COVID, when that was another tricky area time, when we opened 2 locations that year, and all kinds of people, kids essentially quitting because they like, this doesn't feel safe. I don't know if I can be here. And so we, because we're using Square, and Square is a smart company, I'm like, there's got to be a way. I know they gave us this little bitty handheld box that I never used, but let me go look at it. It was a little, that little white box. Like, I could just hand this to the customer and I don't have to touch them. They don't have to touch me. It gives them this comfort level, and they could just go boop and tap it, and everyone loved it. And then they go to McDonald's or another big, and they're like still using, okay, I'm going to paper, a clip. Or anyway, it was way cumbersome. They couldn't do what we could do because we were small and nimble. These larger companies were like, how do we go from what we do to a touchless transaction? They've got gloves on, they're dealing with money, they're doing clipboards that you have to sign. It was just, they couldn't do it. I think that's what helped us. That's we grew exponentially that year, like bloated. And Scott and I worked in the drive-thru every single day, 7 days a week, from 5:30 in the morning until close. And I think that, yes, you want to duplicate yourself as you grow, but in the beginning, this is your baby, and we could have lost it had we said, I just don't feel like doing that. But we've got people, just have Tanya figure it out. She'll staff it. Like, that's not her responsibility. And what I do learn is that the hard stuff is really the job of the owners or the head of the company. You can't delegate. Like, I should be having the tough conversations with the vendors and negotiating prices, not relying on subordinate. I should be the one that's attending these events, which is why, and that's back to how do we differentiate? We are involved in every community that we open up in. And so, like, Thursday night, I'll be at an event in St. James. Tomorrow, I'm going to an event in St. Charles. And so that should be my job now, is to make sure, because that's why I think we're on the map in Washington and Union, because I've been on the board of downtown Washington and on the board involved with Rotary and in Chamber. And we give stuff away every day, all day, sponsor kids' games and school folders and whatever it is, because it's very cost effective, way better than a $500 billboard that you cannot track. And it's feels really great to when I am in the drive-thru and I see fellow Rotarians. I'm like, you come here because I see them at Rotary, but I'm like, you're a customer also. And so it's a really great feeling to know that I'm not doing that intentionally to get business, but as a positive, it's a feel-good thing that people want to do business with people that they see are serving in the community that they live in.
Trust, absolutely.
Which is why we had to move here, I think, because I was like, we're making our money here and then driving to Shrewsbury and spending it there. So it's like, we should be spending the money that we're earning, and that, if we're going to go out to eat in the same communities for people that are coming to our drive-thru, and they love it. We'll go to their local burger place, and they know who we are, and it feels good. They feel good that we're visiting their place because they spend a lot of money with us. So
okay.
Now, granted, you're spending $7 and we're spending $7, but no, it's all right.
Yeah.
They do
You're
a lot.
Supporting, they'll come back, support you. It comes back slowly over time. So you mentioned, you said, how do we maintain the standards? Now you have, 8 different drive-thrus without having to be there the entire time. Would you say that's your current biggest open challenge at the moment?
Yes. And so what we're doing, and this is why I love having young people work for us, is that we know that we need that Scott can't be the end all be all trainer. And even no matter his personality profile is, I'm going to keep doing it till I find out someone who could do it as good or better. Well, that may never happen. And so he's going to have to get over that. But
Yes.
we can record him. We can do video trainings, and we can have this whole portal that everything is accessible on this, instead of what we want to do in our generation. We want to have everything printed. Okay, I've got my printed checklist and my closing duties and what I'm supposed to be doing. And all the recipes are on little laminated signs throughout the drive-thru. And I realized the other day when I was in there, because we're coming up with new recipes now, because that's what everybody wants. Starbucks has it. They want the purple elephant or whatever. Well, like, okay, let's figure out how to make that. But now we have all these recipes everywhere. And so I was talking to the 19-year-old, and I said, maybe we need a little flippy thing that we can find the recipes. She's like, you need to put an iPad up, and we can press the button and, look it up, have a separate iPad than the iPads we use to check people out, so they can look up the recipe right then and there. Or they can pull up on their phone their closing checklist, fill it out, and then hit submit. And then Scott can check that, or whoever the trainer or the manager is can say, oh, did Sally do all of her closing checklist? Or I came in the morning and Sally didn't take the rags outside, so I'm going to leave a note on her profile. Anyway, so that's the next step, is that, which, because we're small and we don't have bajillions of dollars, if we had bajillions of dollars, of course there's software out there and programs out there, and I can hire the smartest people to create all this for us. But for now, we're doing a little bit at a time, but that's where we got to get to.
Okay, so that's where you're getting to. So I was going to say is, that next piece was you fall to the level of your systems. So looks like you're improving those systems so you can be more independent.
Yes.
And be back there scaling your business, knowing that the people are running it. Now you said, oh yeah, was it mom and dad are in here? Everything's okay. Do you have, as far as I know, typically coffee shops, you have a younger cohort of hires.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any, do you also aim towards hiring, like when you get manager, you try to train them up to that point, or do you try to bring in experienced people to maintain those 8 individual locations?
Mm-hmm. Right now we are growing them within, and it does tend to be the mamas out there. And that's why I like hiring moms, because moms are really, and they are, I would hire dads or whoever, but find that, and I know I feel like our psyche is built differently. They always tease about women have 15 windows open and men have 1 window open. And so we could than the average bear. And so like my manager she oversees 2 locations. So that's where she splits her time. So they always know that mom can show up, but she's 27, has 2 little, and she's serious about what she does. This is what is her career. And she's not into happy hours after work or whatever. And that's perfectly fine. She's like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do my job, have a good time, serve great coffee, and go home and be with my baby. I have another mom who does this. She started out part-time because she wanted to get away from her 7 kids, and this was her fun time, fun money or whatever. Well, now she's naturally taking on leadership. She's like, what else do you need me to do? I can start placing orders. Let me help you with the schedule. So, and we offer, every time I interview people, I'm like, I would love this to be your forever home. And because we're growing, if you want to learn social media, you want to learn bookkeeping, you love videography, you're a great trainer, you're highly detailed, you'd be a great trainer. I want to incubate them from within. Even our inventory person and our accounting people, it helps that they were in the drive-thru, because they understand, oh, okay, that's what that product is used for. Because if you don't know, you're like, the numbers might not add up, or it takes you longer to get there. Yes, we do. So we've got, and I was telling a girl who's onboarding tomorrow, I said, what's awesome is tomorrow you're going to see the 17-year-old who's graduating high school and college at the same time, the 40-year-old who we love and is high energy, and then the 27-year-old who has 2 little kids. So there's 3 women in there, all different stages of life. And us older women are learning from these young women. And what's funny is the 19-year-old said to me, she's like, there's more of us than there are of you now, Stu. I'm like, okay, Marty Pants. Meaning that we have got to start using the technology that they've grown up on and stop staying where we're comfortable, because there's not going to be very many of us in drive-thru.
I see. I like how you're listening. I like how you're listening to them, and kind of you're able to take it and kind of read between the lines of what they're saying. I'd be saying a little snarky way, but what you're seeing what they're trying to say, and I'm sure that comes with practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a key thing, is listening and taking cues from your staff and to improve. Absolutely.
And I do think back to you were asking earlier, like, how are you doing all these businesses, blah, blah, blah. I think it's age, because now I know when to stop. Like, yeah, I still have all these ideas, and if all I had was a bunch of money and time, I'd open up 100 businesses. But right now, what pulls me back is experiencing and knowing that nothing will succeed if I'm doing everything a little bit. And I think that's what's great, that so many people, men and women in their 50s, are starting businesses. It's like, okay, I've either raised my kids or I've lived life, gotten to do stuff, and now I'm going to do something fun that I think is fun, and you're okay to put the time in, and you have way more knowledge. If I was trying to do this, and I was trying to do this 20 years ago, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have done it, potentially failed, and probably would have failed because I didn't know how to manage money. I mean, I just was immature, and then wouldn't have tried it again. So now I think timing's everything too. So.
All right. So where do you want to take the business next? You've got all these pieces moving forward. You're scaling the drive-thrus. You have your co-working center and a independent coffee roastery. What's next?
I think we need one of the things in the future is a campus. So right now we're officing out of the workspace, which is up the street. We're doing the kitchen is in that original kitchen that's down in the basement of this building that we office out of. Our roastery is across the street. We've got storage facilities where we build our trailers. That's another business, by the way, but anyway, build our trailers, and then and then we need a huge warehouse to start, because everyone always asks, as we're starting to become distributors for products, they're like, oh, do you have a lift gate, and do you have a loading dock? We're like, no, we just carry these 150-pound bags in. So we need to grow up in that area, and we would likely be on the property where we currently have our mini roastery and drive-thru. So that's one big thing. And then we're working on a franchise light program to see because I've got at least 2 baristas that would like to have their own, and then a couple different, just customers that like, hey, if you have a franchise, we would love to. And they would be good people to practice in. Again, we practiced by having a 1-year lease at that original location to see if the model worked. And now we can practice with a franchise light with people that we trust to help us work out the kinks. And we'll figure it out. Are we ready to let the floodgates open and offer this to across the country? Or do we need to pull back and just stay focused on I'd like to get to 11 locations that we own, because I like 11s, but anyway, and then we can franchise light out the other one.
Nice. Exit 11 locations. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. So, wow. All right. So this is going to be really good. I've got so many questions. I'm overwhelming myself with questions here. This is going to be really, really key, since you've gone through, and you said yourself, time has taught you a lot as far as being an entrepreneur. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start a company? I was going to say, typically I say beverage company, but in this case, any kind of company. What advice would you give someone who wants to start their own company?
Well, you have to like the product and whatever it is you're getting into. Because when I say, even though I wasn't a coffee connoisseur, I loved coffee. And my husband and I, a lot of our dates were in a coffee shop. So there was connection. But there are people who open up, there was a guy locally that opened up a coffee shop in this town, and he did not drink coffee, did not like coffee. I'm like, how do you even know if you're serving the product? So anyway, just because it's a good business model, doesn't mean it's a good business model for you. So you do have to you don't have a passion for the product, but you have to at least like the product. And you have to know your numbers. A lot of people are like, I'm just not a number person. I just don't do numbers. I'm like, okay, well, there's no way you can succeed if you do not understand the basics of a P&L, a balance sheet, how much, the cash flow statement, when's money coming in, what's it going to take, how do I match payroll, what are my cost of goods? That's the key. No business is successful if the numbers don't work out. And and continuing to research and learn in your industry. So like subscribing to I subscribe to the restaurants. There's a restaurant news organization, and I pay that money so I can see what's happening. What are the trends? What's happening in the beverage industry? We attended the Global Coffee Expo in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. will attend the coffee fest. I don't see anybody else. There's no scooters is there. There aren't scooter people there, and there's not Center Brew people there. And so now there may be, and I just don't know it, but we're always learning, and I think that's just it, is that nobody knows it all. And there's no way to know it all. And even though you may be an expert in this one narrow niche, that's the other advice, is make sure you gather people that balance you out, which is back to the personality profile. And it took Scott and I a while because we were both very risk-taking, autonomous, driven, like get out of my way people. But once he learned, oh, you're more people focused and you're okay being the center of attention. He doesn't have anything to do with being in the limelight at all. And I understand that he's more technical and needs to analyze and break down and figure things out. And I'm ready to say, could we please just launch this? But I know the reason why I could sell as many burritos as we sell is because he took a year testing recipes, trying different types of chorizo, blah, 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 blah. But they balance each other out. And that he understands that my autonomy is higher than his autonomy. But because I like people, I want to make sure that decisions I make also make people happy, whereas he doesn't care about making people happy, which is okay. And sometimes you need people he just goes to work, gets it done. Where is everybody happy? Are we good? So you need to appreciate that. And I think that's a good marriage advice too, is if you understand your mate's personality profile, then you're like, oh, they're not being a jerk, how their brain works. And the same with employees. Like if I understand an employee is more of a logical, they make their decisions on logic rather than feelings, I know I can straight talk them and say, listen, kid, you just didn't do that right. Do it over again. But the kid or the adult that is more of a feeler, I have to be more careful on how I give them direction, because they're going to take it personally and think that I'm mad at them, and I'm not. So it's been that's been, I think, the key right now to reducing overhead, reducing turnover, because people are if they don't have people, I don't have a business. So I would invest learning the HR part of it and how to take care of your people too.
All right. I've got a few more questions here. I'm going to add one because I'm really curious now. We've been talking about personality so much. I'm guessing, well, the Myers-Briggs. Yours definitely starts with the E. What is the rest of it?
ENTJ.
ENTJ. Okay. And your husband is obviously an I, like I am. So I wonder if
he is an external. He's ENTP.
Ooh, okay.
His E is clearly not as much as mine. His is right in the line, but we don't argue about the P and the J. I'm like, listen, even though he's more political, he would just get in the car and drive. And I'm like, we have to know where we're going. Like, and I don't want to stop. Go explore down this little side road. We're supposed to be there in an hour. So understanding that, the P and the J, and now we can tease each other about it. But
okay.
And I was a J, and I think, how did I become a J? But
yeah, well, I'm an INTP, so I get where this is coming from. The analytical one in the family, and can break things down. The engineer, so I will. And that's why I'm always getting caught up in my own questions, because I'm just drawing lines to everything and connecting them.
But see, isn't that interesting though? Because on the DISC profile and the culture index, the analytical one, you would think on a Myers-Briggs be J, because J's are about rules and following it, and P's are like, we'll get there when we get there. Who cares? You're a P, right? You're
INTP, yeah.
Yeah, so the P is the perceiver, who is not so much about, and maybe that's where it is. It's like, I'm not so much on a time crunch if I have an opportunity to learn more right here.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm on the time crunch because, okay, just get on it. Let's go. Let's get there.
I read body language, so that's where the P comes from for me. Anyway, we could go on this. This could go the whole other podcast interview. So, and then the next question I have for you, this was a fun one. In your business, what is your favorite beverage? And then when you're out of the town, what is your favorite beverage?
In my business, I get a medium latte extra shot with our bourbon vanilla syrup and cashew milk. Now, I can get cashew milk. Most places don't offer cashew milk. And I went the cashew route because of carbs and sugar, all that. Most people have almond. Almond tastes kind of burnt. I get mine hot. So cashew stretches better than almond. Anyway, and then when I'm out, other places, I'll just get a traditional bourbon latte. Regular vanilla latte.
Vanilla. Okay. All right. Yeah. Great. Never know.
You
Everybody's
know,
different. I had
I
somebody
don't
who
do
says, I like iced tea. I'm like, okay.
yeah.
All right. So do you have any upcoming promotions or events that you'd like to talk about X11 or anything along those lines? Or where can we find
Uh,
you?
No, so our 8th location is in Eureka, and so look for that at the end of June. And
Mhm.
then we're launching we have energy teas that we offer, but now we're offering energy tea slushies. So those are launching next week. So if you visit any of our locations, ask for the rave slushy. So
The rave slushy. All right. Well, Angela, this has been a really cool talk. This has been a straight up case study of what it is to be an entrepreneur and a business owner and keep the two in their own places. I often will talk to people and you have to, you realize you have an entrepreneur that needs to like, okay, you're an entrepreneur now, but you also own a business. Now you got a mindset shift to being a business owner. You can't chase everything like you did when you're an entrepreneur. You
Yeah.
mastered the ability to separate the two and still utilize both of them. And also I think the key too, as you said, was follow through. You're both big on follow through. You and your partner definitely balance yourself out with the analytical and let's go. So you've got the brakes and the gas pedal, which is awesome. And just understanding your customer base and your employee base based on personality and understanding how to meet them where they are. And then obviously the locations and just knowing when to correctly pivot into hey, it's time that we own our own coffee roastery. We have this co-working. And I like that last part about you have to like your product, but it doesn't have to be necessarily your passion, where your passion is the startup, growing the business, that whole piece of it. But you really do like coffee and you just tie that into, you and your husband having many coffee dates. So I think this is going to be a very great case study for anybody who wants to know about entrepreneurs and business. Angela, thank you very much for your time. This was great.
all right. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages with Matthew Shipp. Check the show notes for our guest contact information and connect with Matthew Shipp on LinkedIn today.